this video, let's talk about chipping and pitching and maybe what's the difference. Certainly when it comes to hitting little chip shots that run, it's a very different technique than a soft chip. And then a soft chip shot is really more like a pitch anyway. So let's talk first about a running or low flying chip shot. And right here I have a 9-iron, and you'll see the technique here very different than if I'm trying to get the ball up in the air to put a little backspin on it or to stop it. So the basic chip or running chip is a shot every player needs to have in their bag. And what we don't want to see is a lot of wristiness in the takeaway. We see that a lot. My setup here is fine. I've got the ball opposite of my back foot, which is good. My hands are slightly forward or leaning the shaft sort of this way. All those things are good, but we don't want to see this wristiness in the takeaway that opens the club face up. We don't want to see you pick the club up. We will do that in another shot, but not this one. And so we really want to get this club working low to the ground and sort of in a sweeping type of action. So the club, if it moves back and through correctly, will be lower to the ground throughout its arc as compared to something that might move with the wrists and move very quickly up into the air, which allows you to get that club coming down with more speed and get under the ball a little bit more. This low flying chip here, this ball should launch something fairly low, something like that, and then it will roll out. Using a 9-iron, there just isn't any backspin or very little, so it will roll out very easily. For this shot, it's very minimal in the wrist cock. You can have a 0 wrist cock if you want to. You could keep this club exactly in line with your left arm if you had a small enough shot where the club was swinging maybe back and through something in here. You might have 0 wrist break. I'm having very minimal wrist break on purpose. You can see there's not a lot of bending going on with the right wrist. Club face nice and square, and as I come back into impact, I'm basically back to where I started. Left arm and the shaft are lined up again. Keep the handle moving on through there, which is really vital for all these shots. You really have to keep the hands moving forward, or certainly on an arc rather. We don't want to see anything where you're coming down and right about here at this point, a lot of people stop the hands right there. They'll stop inside that circle, and then they're very wristy and flipping at it. They flip the club head through there, and that causes chunks and skulls. So we want to make sure minimal wrist cock on this running chip shot, and then keep those hands and shoulders going through. You can even see my core, my hips are turning through, and my wrists look very, very quiet. I'm not flipping at that whatsoever. And you can see the ball's launching quite low. Nice running, rolling type of a shot. And last thing to notice, we'll mention this on all the shots, but keep those feet quiet. Do not be dancing around during any of these shots. So as we turn the camera around here and look down the target line, you can see the stance is slightly open. My left foot is slightly more back than my right foot. That helps me turn through a little bit easier. And here's that backswing, pretty much on the green line there, going back. So the club's working on a slight arc as it comes up here, but it is very much a wrist-free sort of action because I'm keeping that club head relatively low to the ground. If I was to use my wrists a lot, you would see that club head tracking way up into here somewhere, but I'm not. My wrists are held firm for this type of a shot. When I come through, the same thing. A little bit of shoulder turn, little core, hip turn. Everything's turning through together to allow the handle to keep moving through, and that makes the club face, you can see down here, stay perfectly square on the way through. Then if I make a shot here, we can see club face nice and square, not a lot of hinge. And there's the body turning through with a little shoulder turn, and the hands are very quiet. Ball launches low, and we'll just roll out. Okay, now let's move on to a softer chip shot. You'll get a little backspin, a little more height on the ball, and this would be sort of a mini pitch shot. A pitch would just be a bigger motion like you see here. And to get started, stance narrow like the other shot, slightly open. Weight favoring the front foot just a little bit. Try to highlight that from the other angle as well. But so my left foot, and I have this pool noodle you can see here in the frame so that let me remove this yellow line for a second, that if I go back, I want to keep that club on the right plane. If I was to go inside a whole lot here, I would hit that. And I see that in a lot of my lessons where players are taking the club too far to the inside and outside. But we want it to just go like right there, face perfectly square, there's no twisting of the club face. You can see my right palm, another good key point, my right palm is facing down here. And that keeps the face square and the club on plane. If I roll it and get in here, the face opens, and then I get off plane. I'll be coming at this ball from too low of an angle and hit the ground or the ball first and scull it. And then if I pick it straight up, I'll end up chopping directly down. So I don't see this one nearly as often. Sometimes people pick it up and chop it. Typically it's the other one where it's going under here. But get this visual where it's going right up that plane, right up the shaft line where it started. That keeps it in proper position. From this face-on view, looking at a soft chip shot or a little pitch shot, there's the narrow stance, weight favoring the front foot. Favoring this one probably 70%. Hands slightly forward, but not too much forward. I do see another common error. I see people leaning this club way out here, pushing it way forward, and that ends up digging the leading edge into the ground. The club needs to sit more neutral like it is here in order for the club to slide along the ground properly. So massively forward pressing, moving the handle out, will not help you with these little shots. The shot itself, we have that hinge coming up here. We know it's on the plane we saw a second ago. Comes back down. Returns back to where it started. There's that same amount of forward lean. And then keep going, keep the shoulders turning, keep the hands going, but keep that face from flipping over like you see here. Key here is a light grip, certainly very light grip pressure, and keep the body going, keep the core moving, keep your shoulders moving, and keep your arms very soft. And lastly, let's talk about trajectory, because a lot of people ask me about how to hit the ball higher and lower based on a swing technique, and it really isn't technique at all. You just want to move the ball position. So whether it's back, middle, or forward, that will dictate the trajectory. So here's the middle one, the actual loft on the club, due to the amount forward the shaft is, that loft is coming up at something like this here. So that ball would launch somewhere in that general range, simply because of how the handle is sitting relative to the club face. If I move the club forward, like you see here, now the shaft is more straight up and down. And due to that, the ball will launch higher because I've tilted the club back basically by moving it forward. So I have more loft just to start with, and that will launch the ball higher. And then the lowest flying one, there at the back, now I have the most amount of lean on the shaft coming forward, and then that will of course launch the ball anywhere in a lower trajectory with the ball back in the stance. So don't get fancy and try to do a lot of wristy action and weird things to hit the ball higher or lower. Simply change the ball position, same technique, and you'll create the trajectory you're looking for. Okay, so I hope that helps kind of defining a little running chip shot or a soft chip / pitch shot. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks so much for watching the video. If it's your first time to the channel, please be sure to subscribe. If you like the video, please hit that like button. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.